guys, Nary here from Drakewing Gaming. Some of you know me on Twitter, The Gaming Dragon. As you can see, I'm coming back at you another Let's Play episode of Heroes Advent. This time, I believe we're going to be doing... Let's see, who do we want to pick? We're going to be going after... Alex. Yes, this will be an Alex run. Guys, please sit back and enjoy Imagination for the next 18 minutes. And let's jump right in. Alarm changer up, and let's go. Alex. I'll go help Alex. There's so much that I still don't really know, and maybe he can help with that. He might seem hard to approach, but a very knowledgeable guy like him could help shedding some lights on how I got here in the first place. If I could even approach him, that is. He took a turn to the back hallway when a red figure happened to pass by the same lobby. Ray! You waved at the dragon as he turned to you. Huh? This isn't Cassian. Good morning. Good morning. Are you heading somewhere? I'm going to see Alex for a bit. What about you? Well, I was thinking about going to his lab too, actually. Oh, really? Ray seemed surprised, and you could vaguely see the concern in his eyes. Yeah, I know he doesn't actually exactly trust me yet. But he's the learned type, right? If nothing else, I would like to stay around and learn from him more. I see. If that's what you want, really. If that's what you really want, then I'll respect that. The dragon smiled. I gotta say, though, Alex's knowledge in his field might be impeccable, but sometimes, how do I put this? He can be a bit difficult to deal with. Is that so? He didn't seem too harsh yesterday. Get off that. Okay. Well... The dragon frowned, and he kind of wondered what's bothering him. Eventually, he smiled again. Forget about it. If you feel like it, maybe try pinning him against the wall this time, yeah? He blushed. What? Your reaction earned a chuckle from Ray, as well as a head pat from him. Just messing with you. Well, let's get going then. I'll keep you company to his bunker. Bunker? Well, by bunker I mean his lab. You know how it goes. Oh, right. You both took the same path to the underground lab. The elevator ride felt shorter than last time, even though you and Ray didn't talk much. You could vaguely hear Alex's voice echoing as you walked along the corridor. It sounded almost like he was scolding someone. Not again. The mouse stumbled out of the lab as the door slid open. They briefly straightened their outfit before hurrying past you without a word. You didn't have time to see their face clearly, but they looked quite distressed, in tears even. When you turned around, the person had already taken the elevator and left. It was strange how the mouse didn't seem to notice both of you there, or maybe he just didn't want to talk right now. Wait here, Cassian. The dragon briefly instructed you as you entered the lab. You quickly hid yourself behind the pile of books and lab documents at the first counter before peeking over the corner. Alex? Ray said, and the Lynx glared back almost immediately. Despite his small stature, he was very, very intimidating. Even Ray seemed a bit reluctant, scratching the back of his head as he approached Alex. You know what? I won't even talk about what just happened. So what did you need me for? The Lynx left the hammer at the workbench and sat in his chair. Oh, excuse me. Sorry about that. I'm running low on Akai crystals. My last Magi prototype weapon was accidentally destroyed by Festin. He made air quotes at accidentally. This is why I can't trust him with any of my projects. He is clumsy and weak. Dozens of my prototypes were wrecked because he's too scatterbrained to handle them properly. Scatterbrained? Jeez, Alex, I know he's not the most skillful personnel around the lab, but you gotta stop being so hard on him. You know he's just trying his best. Lynx didn't say anything, and Ray took a deep breath. Alright, I'll go get your crystals. How soon do you need them? In 2 days from now. I need it for another weapon prototype. Gotcha. I'll hand them over around tomorrow evening. The dragon gently caressed the Lynx's head, and you could have sworn you heard him purr. He quickly smacked Ray's hand away, his face a bit red. Ray? Alex threw another glare at him, but only for a moment as he sighed. Alright, I'll talk to Festin again for the umpteenth time. I'm glad to hear. I'll get going now. Ray, wait! The Lynx almost yelped as the dragon left his side. Yeah? Stay safe. You know I will. Oh, right, there's someone here that wants to see you. The dragon noticed you on his way out. Oh, well, you know the drill. Whoever it is. They'll have to wait until I finish my work. Alex? Fine, who is it then? You timidly step out of your hiding place as the dragon nudged your shoulder. Good morning, Alex. Oh, it's you again. What do you want? Alex? Ray sighed, and the Lynx seemed to stop himself. Is there something you needed from my lab, Cassian? Well, I would like to learn more about this world from you, actually. I was hoping maybe I could uncover my connections to Arborea, why and how I got here and whatnot. Is that it? He expected indifference from the Lynx, but he seemed somewhat intrigued by your reasons. Well, as you already know, I have little time to spare for matters outside the scope of my projects. As such, I cannot afford to let just anybody into my work. So tell me, Cassian, what can you offer me in exchange for knowledge you seek? Well, I could help you around the lab. I might be a little clumsy, but I'm a fast learner, and I'll do my best, I promise. Uh-huh, of course you will. As if I need another Festin in my lab, ruining all my progress for the month. He seemed to stop as Ray gave him the look again. Okay, you know what? Lynx rubbed his temples as he said, Ugh! I don't think he yawned, I think that was me. Having an extra pair of hands around here could be helpful. Just try not to break anything. Also, everything in this workplace is organized accordingly, so do make an effort not to misplace anything, and I mean anything. Have I made myself clear? Yes, I understand, and I'll try my best. Well, now that that's settled, I'll be on my way. Have fun, you two, but not too much fun, I hope. Alex sighed as the dragon finally left before returning to whatever he was doing at his desk. He stood frozen in place for a few minutes to process what just happened, when he realized he hasn't said a word to you after Ray left. Back room, he said without looking away from the monitor. Huh? The books you'd want to check are out in my back room. He pressed something at the desk panel, and an empty shelf in the back retracted into the wall, revealing a hidden tunnel. Oh! Like I said, don't break or misplace anything. When you're done, put 65766988 on the door panel to leave. Try to remember it, because after 3 failed attempts, you'll get locked up, and I'll have to come get you out later. Maybe I should note that down somewhere. Okay, I'll try to keep that in mind. As you should. Now go, and don't bother me until lunchtime. You hurried into the tunnel as he remotely closed the door behind you. He didn't exactly say it, but maybe he sent you here because he wanted to be alone. You felt a little conflicted, but at least he didn't put you out into a rigged room with traps, right? After walking for a minute or so, you ended up in a spacious room about the size of a small warehouse. You looked around as several lamps gradually lit up the place. On one side were bookshelves stacked upon each other, like a personal archive of sorts. On the other side were various machine parts displayed on racks and smaller shelves. You could hear faint beeping in the back of the room. It looked like a computer to you. The screen was off, but you could vaguely see the light coming from within the casing. You sighed to yourself. Even though the Lynx gave you permission, you still felt like you weren't supposed to be here somehow. Alas, here I am, so what should I do to pass the time? Get some books from the archive? Okay. I don't exactly read a lot, but might as well, right? You gave a brief look through the bookshelves. Some titles immediately grabbed your attention. Arborea, Geminology, all of them. Ooh, Arborea. Alyssa was the first to tell me of this name. Such an interesting one for this world, too, if I do say so myself. He sat down on the couch after taking the book. He flipped through the table of contents and started reading. Light, previous universe, 5 fundamental forces? It seemed that the universe in question here was a cycle of the Big Bang and Big Crunch. At some point during its expansion, the previous universe began to shrink into singularity before expanding rapidly again. But something doesn't quite add up. From what you can remember from the science class back in school, there were only 4 fundamental forces: gravitational, electromagnetic, weak, and strong nuclear forces. There were also speculations for the 5th force, but it seems to already exist from the beginning in Arborea. As you read further along the passage, this 5th force was described to have sentience, also capable of communicating with inhabitants of this universe through various means. It was categorized as magical energy, or mage for short, and was known for its ability to bend the 4 other forces to its will. That is how magic worked. Arborea, as we know today, was formed approximately 4.5 million years ago. The people of Arborea were of many different types and classes of species, gaining sentience roughly the same time on different regions of the planet. The first sentient people had a tendency to bond with their respective kin, forming different prehistoric tribes representing their species. The rulers of those tribes were also the first magic users, people who can wield magic crystals and utilize its power. As magic users were very rare back then, those tribe leaders were deemed powerful figures, often referred to as descendants of gods. This created social classes from the earliest days of civilization. In time, tribes became towns, and towns became kingdoms. As society progressed, war was also a very common occurrence, either from conquest, class warfare, or species tension. At some point during the many warring periods, people of the lower class realized their capability to wield magic, which is one of the catalysts leading to the modern revolution. Nowadays, magic is widely available, and almost all people can use the most basic elemental magic based on their affinities. Aside from the magic stuff, it's quite similar to the old world. I guess conflict can happen anywhere after all, huh? The rest of the book is kind of like an encyclopedia of existing kingdoms and countries in Arborea, as well as entries and diplomatic status of different factions between continents, mostly politics. Ooh, there's also an ocean kingdom too, it'd seem. Interesting! There was a world map folded along the last pages. The names seemed to be written in some sort of dated hieroglyphs that you couldn't read, so you didn't look at it for long. Eventually, you flipped to the addendum, where a specific passage caught your attention. Peaceful era was achieved throughout the continent soon after the revolution. Treaties were formed between previously warring factions to maintain an everlasting peace in almost all modern settlements and civilizations. The reign of the evil king 2 decades ago changed all this. Legend proclaimed that when worlds collided, a hero will emerge in Arborea's darkest moments and bring salvation to us all. He sighed, closing the book. That last part was awfully similar to what Alyssa talked about in the first few weeks she spent at her home. I think that's enough for this book. Maybe I'll study the encyclopedia or ask Alex about the world map next time around. Get up to return the book to the shelf. The Geminology of Magic, Crystals, and Magic Energy. Magic crystals! I always wanted to read more about magic. You leaned against the wall as you flipped the book open. Magic crystals are minerals that contain traces of resonating elements that can channel various types of magic, depending on the specific affinity of the user. The 3 known types of magic crystals are energy, elemental, and nether. Energy crystals can generate, channel, and manipulate electromagnetic force, and as such are mainly used to operate any pieces of machinery that require power. Although capable of providing unlimited clean energy, the production, deployment, and maintenance costs of energy crystals is a major deterring factor. Popular submission for alternatives was fossil fuel, energy sources made from combustible substances. Though cheaper, it was quickly deemed inefficient and can result in air pollution. The scholars also argued that energy crystals' high durability would make them suitable for long-term investments for a clean energy solution. Well, ain't that just neat? You chuckled to yourself, especially at how this would sound like a made-up fantasy back in your world. That explains the fresh air even in the city. If only my world had that kind of technology. Elemental crystals are mostly wielded by people to manipulate the elements to their will. The crystals will resonate with the user's elemental affinity to generate or manipulate forces of that specific element, much like the energy crystals that required polishing and proper placement to operate efficiently. Elemental crystals must also be polished and chiseled accordingly to ensure maximum resonance. Elemental affinity is innate to the people of Arborea and varies between these different users. The same logic applies to elemental crystals. If a user tries to wield a crystal of incompatible element, no effect will occur. Okay, that's an awful lot of specific steps just to use elemental magic. You scratched your head as you turned to the next page. Little are known about the origin and capabilities of nether crystals. However, evidence from many studies and experimentations have concluded that nether crystals can disrupt the harmony of magical energy, magi, of any affected living creatures. It has been proven that magi exists in every sentient beings, regardless of their magic capability. If the magi of a sentient creature is disrupted, their mind will be corroded, and they will gradually revert to their feral impulses. Crystalline infection will first enter the afflicted through their bloodstream and begin to absorb any traces of mineral in their body, which can grow into visible patches on the person's skin. The visible nether shards on the infected can grow into a fully spiked carapace if given the opportunity, such as feeding the person more crystals regardless of which type. Exposure to nether crystals can lead to infection, but not immediate corruption. Every sentient beings have their own defensive mechanism to purge traces of nether infection from their body. However, repeated exposure and stimulant can breach the threshold, and only then would the individual become fully corrupted into a mindless zombie. The only exception to this rule is the Evil King, who was observed to have high resistance against nether infection, and as such has extensively used the crystal to subjugate crystalline beasts via unknown methods. He shuddered, thinking back to those fictional movies where humanity would end from a zombie apocalypse. You know it isn't exactly the same in this case, but the thought of it really sent chills down your spine. Huh. Crystal zombies. What other game has had crystal zombies? I about the end of the world or post-apocalyptic civilization. Oh yes, Metal Gear Survive. The game that no one talks about because it doesn't exist. Anyway, moving on. A fourth hypothetical type of crystal is known as the ether crystal, believed to be the antithesis to their nether counterpart. Oh, Chekhov's crystal. Okay. Where nether crystals would disrupt the harmony of magi, ether crystals would instead revert the disruption and restore the harmony of the magi. This is purely speculation, as there are currently no recorded evidence that suggests the existence of ether crystals. The rest of the book was about technical specifications of the first two types of crystal, as well as how elemental affinities are hereditary. He closed the book in silence before returning it to the shelf. Excerpt from the Space-Time Dimensional Theory. Interesting. Dimensional, right? And maybe this has something to do with how I got here. You sat back on the couch with the book, which looked quite old and a little tattered. You took extra care not to tear the book in half as you opened it. Written on the faded pages were scribbles of scientific formula, with sticky notes attached to them. Looks like Alex used this book a lot. Though lacking observable evidence, the existence of other physical dimensions is undeniable. One popular theory proposed the use of an artificial crystal created through the combination of energy and elemental crystals to open cross-dimensional gateways to other worlds. Myths and urban legends of this phenomenon were commonplace from the earliest days of Arborea. From tales of ancient tribes visited by otherworldly strangers to proto-modern mages and alchemists attempting crossover to other dimensions. There has yet to be evidence beyond reasonable doubt to back up this occurrence. Until now. One second. Okay. Oh, no! No, mouse! Don't fall over! Okay. Save my mouse. Almost fell off the edge of my desk. He stopped at the scribbling at the end of the paragraph. It was one of the notes Alex wrote there. This Cassian person seems to have been transported here from his dimension via the aforementioned method. Traces of spatial energy was reported by Max's lady friend, but there is still considerable doubt to her claims given the lack of specialized equipment for accurate monitoring on her part. I will have to get into contact with Cassian to get more answers as to how he arrived in Arborea, if that were actually the case. He must be talking about Alyssa. He's more invested in this matter than I thought. Alex's notes seem to cover up the following paragraphs that were supposed to debunk the cross-dimensional transportation theory. There's a common belief that other pocket dimensions housing natural deposits of nether and ether crystals existed. This still remained largely a theory, as there is yet to be submitted evidence to guarantee their existence, which could explain the disappearance of a creature's magi post-mortem. Extensive monitoring of dying subjects have shown their magi dispersing gradually with traces of dimensional energy. This rule also applied to the infected. Need more evidence and research. Requests for live nether subjects were denied. We will need to find better alternatives for more experimentation soon. The rest of the book went in depth about dimensional theories, space-time continuum, curvatures, and related mumbo-jumbos. You could vaguely get the gist of it, but the more you tried to read, the more your head started to hurt. You returned the book to its rightful spot on the shelf with a long sigh. Stop reading. You've read all you could manage and decided to take a break for now. You still couldn't figure out exactly how you got here. And maybe someone took you through when you fell into that sewer, but that memory was already hazy to you, and even if that was the case, why were you chosen of all people? All this thinking is making your head heavy, but at least the topics you looked into were interesting, and you felt like you would have opened your mind to a well of knowledge about this world. Alright guys, I'm going to pause it right here. In the next video, we're going to be going over the other choices that we had and progressing further. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, ring that notification bell, leave a super thanks or a tip if you can. It always helps. Until the next video, I love you all. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye!